Welcome back for part 2 of Take Your Homeboy to Work Day podcast. We'll pick up where we left off. But before you go, we need your help to spread our message. So please subscribe, like, and rate 5 stars wherever you get your podcast and on LinkedIn at Take Your Homeboy to Work Day podcast. Thank you. Enjoy.
So now let's move into some of the VP roles you had, because you were able to rise up to VP with Modus, and then I imagine the VP role with PSI is what gave you that initial introduction to becoming CEO. So the VP roles, how are they different than what you previously had did at managing director? And then how did they prepare you for becoming a CEO and president?
What typically happens in, I think, or at least for me, let's talk about what happened for me, is the role didn't, in the first vice presidential role, it was still in the same organization. I'd really kind of grown through the ranks. And your role just starts, as you start to elevate, you start to become more, exposed to more senior level, C-level, C-suite level conversations, decision making, etc. Right? And so that what you're doing mostly on a day-to-day basis, you actually just have a little more insight as to how the company or organization got to that mission statement, got to that decision about, a layoff, came to that decision about some technology, came to decisions, and then where they're going. So you get a little more behind this, see a little bit of, like the Wizard of Oz, right? You pull the screen back and you realize, oh, there's just this man back there pulling levers, right? You just start to see a little bit more behind the scenes. Your day-to-day is not really that much different. You're just, you have access to a little more of the senior level discussions, and can provide some input. Coming here and that was a large organization. Coming here, the VP title was just, it was just a title that I kind of selected. Like, I don't care what my title is, as long as I'm able to do the things that I know I can do, provide some impact. But here it was to help the then president and owner, CEO Keith Stevens, help him be less involved in the day-to-day, so he could do those things that we talked about earlier on this podcast, right? So that he can be more involved with strategy, vision, helping the organization see around corners and what may be coming, and not be dealing necessarily with what's happening on a day-to-day, but what may be coming and how the organization can be prepared for it. Right.
Yes.
So that was my role here. Just help elevate the person that I report to, right? So that he can do what he's positioned to do. So hope I answered the question.
Yeah, you did. And how did you and Keith meet?
The last in between. Well, he was already in. We were in the same industry, right? IT, staff augmentation, and professional services, and so we would meet or run across each other at networking events and industry functions, and and so that's how we initially came to be aware of one another. So I knew what he was doing from afar. He knew what I was doing from afar. And after about 15 years with the previous organization, they were starting to make some changes that really didn't fit me and my personality. So it was time to look for a new opportunity. And so I wasn't really ashamed to kind of say, hey, it's time for me to look for another opportunity. And he was one of the first people that I reached out to my LinkedIn family and network of folk and just said, hey, I'm open to, looking at a new opportunity. And he was one of the first, like, hey, let's just talk. So we just started to develop a relationship a real relationship at that time over 30-minute coffees and so forth.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, well, thank you for guiding us through all of these roles that help build the foundation to to you becoming a CEO. I'd love to now dive into what it's like actually helming a business, especially since you had to make that transition from focusing on the day to day to now
Mhm.
big picture and thinking long term. So, I guess my first question, the training to become a CEO. So when you were in the VP role, Keith is maybe possibly taking you under the wing and teaching you the leadership roles. Could you explain what is the training like before you became the CEO?
Yeah, there's no direct path,
Right.
right? There really isn't a direct path, and I don't know that any path that you take is going to be 100% perfect, or that you could call it training, but I think it's more just a journey. And on the journey, there's going to be some detours, right?
Hmm.
And then on those detours, sometimes the detour you'll be looking one direction, and all of a sudden you're down a detour. Like, well, I don't think I'm supposed to be going this way. But sometimes the detour is the unexpected destination.
Yeah. Sometimes getting lost is fun. You end up finding a better
Uh-huh.
destination. Okay.
Sometimes that detour takes you exactly where you were supposed to go all along. So um, you have to kind of stay in the moment. I think to get to the next level, you stay in the moment and don't try to overcorrect. You know, maybe what you think was a wrong turn. Don't try to overcorrect it, because it's probably exactly where you're supposed to be. Something in what you're going through,
Mhm.
whatever that is on a day-to-day basis at your job, is something you're supposed to get something from. So what is it? You have to be able to see, what is it I'm supposed to get from this, good or bad,
Mhm.
especially the bad. What am I supposed to get from this? So if it happens again, I know exactly what to do, and I recognize it when I see it coming.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Right? So and it's true. The lessons learned, the major lessons learned are in failure or in bad decisions.
Mhm.
So that you don't make them again. So most of the decisions that I see uh, now, especially that I have to make, that are, I can see, I can call on stuff that's happened in my past, that where I made a mistake. Looking back, I didn't think it was a mistake at the time. You make the best decision you can at the time. All right, you see, then you live with the results. Oh, okay.
Mhm.
I probably shouldn't have done that. Okay, next time. I know next time. Right. So it's just be on the journey, and stay in the moment, and
Mhm.
then take just grab a little souvenir. I call it a little souvenir for yourself, so you don't forget about what your journey's been like, to keep you grounded and focused on a day-to-day basis. And it's those experiences that lead to subject matter expertise, right? I tell my son, who's 24, he's 24, that once you go to college, and I mean, you finish college, that's just preparing you for learning new things every like 13 weeks, learning a
Mhm.
bunch of new stuff every 13 weeks, and being consistent. Boom, 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 boom. All right. Now, when you come out of school, it doesn't matter what your degree's in. All right. Just start a career, and then try different things to see what it is you kind of like, and then get good at something. Just take some time, take your, a couple of 5, 10, most of your 30s, to build some sort of subject matter expertise.
Mhm.
This is what I know, and this is really what I'm good at, because now I know, I've made enough mistakes, I've done enough different things inside this same space. I know what I'm doing, and that's what people tend to pay for. Number one, and then when you have a, when you expose yourself and network, then other people, it's almost like you're in sales, Brandon, or business development. So you have to kind of put yourself out there so that others so that others know you. You know, you hear that statement, "Oh, it's who you know." Well, that's true, but often it's who knows you.
Right. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Who knows you? If they don't, you can be this badass, but then if nobody knows you because you don't ever put yourself out there,
mm-hmm.
you
Right.
stay in this same little space with your same little comfortable friends, then you never put yourself out there. Nobody knows you.
Mm-hmm, 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 mm-hmm.
So, so yeah, I think I got off topic. So you're supposed to manage
You
this.
good.
This
No, it's all good information, so we're good. You're not off topic at all. I'm still. Well, let me pick your brain on this, especially since you have account management experience. So you have worked
Mhm.
for a company and then been responsible for the relationship with a third party or another company, which is similar in a way to being a CEO. I mean, you have to manage the investors or the creditors or PR people or whoever. I guess as CEO, who has been your most external customer? Who outside of the company have you had to interact with the most so
Outside of the company,
far? Hmm.
have I had to interact with outside of the company?
Hmm.
Interesting. Well, I'll, s- I don't know exactly how to answer the question based on how it's at.
Well, let me
So
ask this. I guess who is
I'll try to, yeah, go ahead.
I could try to I could try to rephrase it. Uh, who I guess who is your biggest customer outside of the company? Who do you have to? So do you have to do a lot of
Mhm,
work with the
mhm,
investors or the people who put money into the
mhm.
company and making them feel
Yeah.
secure that the vision is going? Who externally do you have to interact with the most? Who is your biggest customer? Similar
So
to when you were account
I'll
manager.
say, so I'll try to make it more like what our organization is still, what you call a small business. So small business is, you know, under 500 million.
Mm-hmm.
Under 500 million is something like that is still considered small business. Um, and so we're a small business, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of small business, we don't necessarily have investors and that kind of thing. We do have bankers
Mm-hmm.
and um, you know advisors and an advisory board and that kind of stuff. So we definitely have to engage them on a regular basis so that they're aware of the health of the business. But it's not like they take up much time, especially if you're, as long as your um, cash flow and working capital is fine, your banking relationship is usually, pretty easy. It's just when they start to have issues, when they start to have their own issues, sometimes they can make things difficult for you. Um,
Gotcha.
but outside of the for me right now, it's because we're still in a transition. You mentioned it earlier. I bought this company. Um, I bought this company with an SBA loan. So there aren't investors. Myself and a business partner have taken on a business loan, and then we leveraged everything we had. Right,
Mm-hmm.
everything I got, the SBA and the bank own it. Right, until we pay it off. Um, and so that's it from an investment standpoint. And I'm focused right now because of the timing. Dust is still settling from that purchase,
Mm-hmm.
and what we wanted to make sure happened was that our staff, our billable consultant population, our clients never felt a change.
Mm-hmm.
That things just continue to move and they never noticed any difference really, especially if they were satisfied with what was going on, and if they weren't satisfied, that we made some corrections. So um, who do I engage with most of the time is more our our biggest clients, just making sure that they are that we're delivering at a level that they expect, that our team is is spending time where they need to and not where they want to necessarily. Right?
Right, right,
Where
yep.
they need to because it's important. It's important for us at this time, and that would be. I think that would be it. Mostly with some of our biggest clients.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. You are in a unique position to talk about a company from you have a unique viewpoint of a company. And so I just wanted to understand, since you are CEO and president, you're more external facing than nearly every
Mhm.
other employee. I just wanted to see what those experiences were like, which you did share. So I appreciate that. Now, for your clients, um, so this question I'm asking, I guess, for your clients, and when they are expecting a deliverable from PSI, how, goodness, how do I say this? I guess I'm asking this like a physical manifestation. So if I'm one of your clients and I hire you PSI to help me in my business, what is the physical manifestation of what you do to help your clients?
The physical manifestation.
Yeah, like how can, is there something that they can touch or see, that they know that when you put your touch on it, when you do it, they know that, it has the Monty touch on it. What is the physical manifestation of the work that you do? How can somebody see a difference in their company based on the work that you do?
Well, I think we talked about it a little bit earlier. The if we do our job right, if we do our job right, then we take um, we take some responsibilities off of their talent acquisition team or their HR team that where they might need to be focused on some talent acquisition and bringing some resources in. Well, we do our job right. They don't. That's time we've given them back
Yep, makes sense.
because they don't have to worry about it. Like,
Hmm.
okay, PSI is going to take care of finding these tough to find skills and these resources, and then work with us just to get them onboarded and producing. Right. Same
Hmm.
thing for the IT department. We've helped both departments. We've helped the HR team, given them some time back to do other things, and gotten some of their seats filled. All right, and then same for the IT department. We brought some subject matter expertise in, so that they either have some new technologists in the organization, technologies that maybe there are no other subject matter experts in the organization, or there are not enough of them, right? So
Hmm.
now IT can deliver at a much higher level. They can do a little knowledge transfer to people training that don't know that technology. So now they're able to compete better because everyone's resources and times are being utilized efficiently.
Hmm. Hmm.
Being utilized efficiently. So now they're delivering at a high level. They're competing at a high level, right? Um, and if they're competing at a high level, with other organizations because of like our our client base. If they're competing at a high level and having success, then dollars and cents are more profitable, right?
Hmm.
They're getting better ROI on
Hmm.
their investments, and if that's happening, then they're able to deliver on their mission, which is always some level of philanthropic efforts,
Hmm.
right? When companies are producing at a high level and they have some core values similar to ours, then they're blessing others.
Hmm. Hmm.
They're blessing others who may be in need. So therein, if you want to talk about a physical manifestation, we're not talking about some products. We're talking about people are getting served that may be underserved.
Hmm. Hmm. Well said, well said, and thank you. Now, I want to ask this next question. I guess as you were preparing yourself to come into this role as a CEO and president, you probably had a perception of what it was. And now that you're actually in the role, what has been the biggest, I guess, what has been the biggest, you had an expectation of what the role would be, and then you finally got into the role. What's been the biggest shock or surprise for you being CEO?
Biggest, okay, let me make sure I answer your question.
Okay.
But first of all, it's I didn't really have an expectation, right?
Okay. All right.
I didn't have an expectation because I knew that the previous owner had had some family that maybe he would leave he and his brother would leave the business in the family, keep in the family name.
Mm-hmm.
Like they would maintain the ownership. I knew I would be leading, making be one of the major decision makers, but I felt like that's probably what would happen. Okay, once he steps down, he'll, give just ownership will stay in the family, but I'll just, be the decision maker. I was already the president at that time. So, but then I was approached like, hey, why you've helped us build to a level that this company's worth something, and we're thinking about starting to step down, just kind of do less or do more of what we want to be able to do because of just age. We're getting a little bit old, so I wasn't expecting it. I was like, "What, me?" And so then I had to start to think, okay, do I want that? You know, now if as the owner as the owner, you're the risk is all yours,
Mm-hmm.
100% risk,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's a little different than if you're an employee and you're making decisions or you're doing anything. You have virtually no risk other than you can lose your job.
Mm-hmm.
But as an owner, risk, all 100% risk of anything that happens is on you. So that's the one thing that you have to get comfortable with, uh, is what's your risk tolerance? What's your risk tolerance? And
Mm-hmm.
then kind of a go back to your previous conversation, previous question. The people that I work with outside of the organization are organizations that support what we do, and understanding how they can better support us in our mission and decisions we want to make. How can they make sure it happens? So I have to be more involved with understanding what information they need, how they process it, and how it comes back, how it affects our clients, how it affects the consultant population, all those things, timing, blah blah blah. If it's going to cost any more money, blah, all those things, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
sorry. The Your question was biggest.
You had a vision of what the job was, and then you get into
Right,
the
right.
job, and there may be things different. What was something that may have been the biggest difference?
Biggest. Yeah. Uh, yeah, I think we kind of talked about it. So
Yeah.
for me, this it's just there's generally there's a few more because I think depending on the size of your organization, if you're really large organizations, m- people have what I would call like very siloed, very specific. It's very defined what
Mm-hmm.
you are responsible for and what you do. But the smaller your organization, the more you have to know just about a little bit of everything. And so there's just things for me that I just really never had to pay attention to until my the owners who what so things that they were responsible for I never had to pay attention to. I got to pay attention to some of that stuff now, right?
Right.
You got access to all the bank accounts and the chief financial officer, so now you're looking at receivables and payables and banking statements. Well, you're not always looking at that stuff if you're just managing the day to day and making recommendations on what we should do. You're not really looking at all the like stuff that's happening in the back, in the
Right.
background, in the back office per se. And so just really becoming more aware. of how the decisions that are made, and how that can impact your back office, um, what the working capital, workflow, cash flow really kind of needs to be to help you kind of manage. And then again, risk is a big one. The risk for some of your decisions, you start to take a look at those um, in every decision you make. What's our what's our company risk, and what is our North Star? What's our North Star? What's our company risk? Right. And then you just try to manage all your decisions with a little more risk involved in your decision making than, in my estimation, that's where I am right now. More risk is involved, or analysis is involved with decision making versus before I was the owner.
Makes sense. And for this next question, I want you to think abstract. So if
Abstract.
yes, so if you had to describe being a CEO to a painter, and then that painter was going to create a picture of it, what would you tell the painter to draw?
Um, Now, actually, this one, I looked at your some of your you had some questions, and I actually took a look at that question. I was like, okay, well, what would that be? It actually came to me pretty quick. So
Okay.
it would be something like a flow of water. It would
Mm-hmm.
be like a flow of water that maybe started with you know kind of a, what do you call it, like almost like a rushing stream of water
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
over a rocky bed, over rocks that ended up into like more of a wider body of water, maybe even an ocean where the water was more calm and clear.
Okay, okay. And I guess what did those images represent for you?
Yeah, just the journey, kind
Okay.
of a journey. And
Mm-hmm.
so the journey can be rocky and can be going at a pace that you're not even noticing how much information, how many things are affecting you, impacting your mental, emotional, physical self. And so it can be rough. It can feel like you're being squeezed. And then, but over time, just like with age, I'm not going to say getting older is fun, because sometimes if I'm in my 50s, you're like, man, I feel old today. But over time, like when you get older, like life decisions get easier for you
Mm-hmm.
than like when I was in my for to me than when I was in my teens and 20s and 30s. Life decisions are much easier, just because you lived a lot more life. You've had a
Mm-hmm.
lot more
Right.
experiences. You should know what to do.
Right.
So same here. Like that. So just a flow of water. It's a constant evolution. It's a constant evolution, and the change of going from water that maybe rushes down the side of a mountain over rocks and waterfalls and that kind of thing, and then basically ends up into a larger body of water that's really kind of calm and clear. That's what that represents. Just that journey and experiences that you've accumulated helps you better manage.
Well said, well said. And thank you. Sometimes that can be tough for people to try to think abstract, but I'm glad it came to you naturally. And well said. That's a very vivid picture. What do you, this next question, you have done a great job explaining, sharing some of the lessons you've learned. For example, you've talked about how your faith has given you, strength during times of uncertainty. You've talked about how having a counselor possibly has helped you, not retain anger or, get your frustrations out, which are two great lessons for young people. Make sure that, whatever faith you choose to practice, find one that, helps you and supports you through life. And then also get a counselor so that you have somebody to talk through some of the issues you may have with coworkers or family. is there and those are two great lessons. And so, is there any other life lesson or anything that may have happened in your career that if you could prepare your younger self, you would share?
Uh, yeah, sure. There's another lesson uh, is don't chase don't chase money,
Mm, mm,
and
mhm, mhm,
don't chase it. Um, just don't chase money, right?
mhm,
I mean,
mhm.
you can. I think it is just it won't satisfy you necessarily. You can have a bunch of money and still be miserable.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and so I've experienced that, and so I would say don't. I would tell my younger self don't chase money. It'll find you. The money will find you if you're working where you're supposed to be. You know, God built you for something. You're here for something. Just trust that you'll find it if you continue to look. I'm not saying jump from job to job to job because you're never satisfied. Maybe that's a whole nother conversation. But I'm saying if you're working hard and you're having some impact in life, and you're impacting your family and folks around you on your job, and you're someone enjoying what you do, then maybe that's where you're supposed to be. Just set down some roots, work hard, um, be a good employee, which is show up on time,
Mhm.
do what you say, do what you say you're going to do,
Mhm,
right?
mhm,
Be accountable. Hold yourself accountable. Don't always be pointing fingers at other people, right? Just be a good employee, because being a good employee will always, and that's basic stuff. Show up on time, do hard work, be inquisitive, volunteer for other duties, so that not just so you can work yourself to death, but so you can learn some stuff. Maybe you volunteer for a department. Hey, you heard they understaffed. Hey, let me come help you out a little bit. I got a little extra time, but you also learn something while you're doing it, right? So now you build some additional subject matter expertise that you didn't have, and that's what people pay for. The money will find you. The money will find you.
mhm, mhm,
And then when you don't believe in what you're do if you feel like you're in a role, and you don't believe in what the organization is doing, have enough bel confidence and faith, that you can move on,
mhm,
that you can
mhm,
move on to another organization that better fits who you are, who you are. But you got to know who you are first. But if most young people, most people often find themselves living a double life. By that I mean they're one way at home, but they're another way at work, because at work they have to be somebody they're not.
mhm,
And so I don't think you can really ever have true success if you're working in an industry or doing something where you have to be somebody you're not. You have to find an opportunity, a company and a culture, and where your true self is able to operate, because you believe in what you guys are doing. Doesn't mean you have to be, building houses for the poor necessarily.
mhm,
It just means you believe in how the company treats people, that they listen to their employees, that you have a voice, that they take care of you, that you make an honest wage, all of those things, that they give back. If they're making plenty of money, that all the bosses ain't just driving up in Lambos, and they won't give you a 50-cent raise, right? Stuff
yeah.
like that,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
But you can be yourself. You can be who you are while you work, and yeah. And if you can't, don't be afraid to walk away.
That's awesome. I really love how you are bringing a different image and perception to what a CEO is. In this capitalist society, we often make CEOs so pigeonholed that the only thing they have to think about is money. And I really appreciate you coming on and sharing how the job can be so much more than just money. So thank you so much for sharing so much today on the show.
Yeah, hopefully somebody hears it. And you never know who's going to hear it, but you have to put it out there, because if it, again, like the mustard seed, you got to plant something,
Yeah.
put something out there in the atmosphere, and if and maybe the person that was supposed to receive it, the person that was supposed to receive it gets it because you put it out there. You just follow what you thought you were supposed to do.
Well said. Well, we are coming down to the end of the show, and I like to have a little fun with all of my guests before we go. I like to ask this question because it gives the audience a chance to learn a little bit about your personal interests, and we get to
Hmm.
have a little fun with the
Uh-oh.
hypothetical situation. Don't worry, it's all fun, but are you ready?
Okay,
Let's
I
go.
guess.
So imagine that you are the A&R of a record company, and you have just,
A&R.
yes,
What is that?
you're in charge of talent.
Oh,
So
okay.
you find the artist, and then you bring them onto the label, and you finance them making projects or their tours. So you're the A&R, and you've been given an unlimited budget to create your favorite song, and so you can pick any three artists and one producer, and they get into a studio together, and the four of them actually make a song. Which three artists, and which producer are you picking to make for this song?
So you're assuming that I even know names of producers.
I am
And
making a big assumption.
you're assuming that, but I can probably get in on the artist piece, but I don't know about producers, but many of them also, I think, function as producers. So, you know, um, for me, are just artistically, I'm trying to think of a couple of different genres and time periods. So, so like there's like one right old school. My one of my favorite bands and still an artist is the Isley Brothers. Really, only Ron Isley um, is still singing,
Mhm.
but or well, no, his brother. I forgot his brother
Yeah.
writes a lot, but Isley Brothers, um, who would be like number two. Oh, that's really tough because there's so many. Mm, 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 mm.
It's a tough one.
That's a tough one. That one's a tough one. So, like lately, I really enjoy the diversity of songs written, I think produced and put out there by Glasper. So I would put because he does a lot of really good collaborations. And, it can be like it could be traditional jazz. It might be a little bit of hip hop. Throw some rap in there. It might be
Yeah.
So
Did you go to the Jazz and Rip Fest last year and see him?
I did, of course.
Awesome, good. I was out there too.
I can't. The third one is I'm struggling with the third because there's definitely people always got Isley's, and then lately I'm like it's kind of like Glasper, a lot of his stuff. I just got two for you. That's really it.
No
But
worries. Hey, those are those.
producer wise, I don't really even know like a bunch of producers. The only person that like just jumps out in my mind is Q, like Quincy, and outside of that, I'm like, well, I'm sure I know some other producers. I just don't. They're not coming to mind.
Well, Glasper is one also, just like you said, and Quincy one being a singer and a producer also. So that those three could get in the room and that would be a powerhouse song. So you answered it. So great job.
All right.
Well, I really, once again, I appreciate your time, Monty. This has been a great conversation. You have given a perspective of what the CEO is like. You're the first one I've had on the show. So to have that top level perspective of a company was very enriching for me. Thank you for pulling the curtain back and removing some of the mystery behind this job. I appreciate it. And thank you so much for sharing so much about yourself. I know that's sometimes that can be the hardest part, is sharing your own personal journey, but you were very open. I appreciate your transparency. I'm sure the audience will. So thank you again so much for your time. And I wish you and PSI nothing but success.
Hey, before you go, we need your help to spread our message. So please subscribe, like, and rate 5 stars wherever you get your podcast and on LinkedIn at Take Your Homeboy to Work Day Podcast. Thank you.